While the great majority of cargo voyages end successfully, research by the UK P&I Club reveals that an increasing number do not. Cargo claims result in 4 out of 10 major P&I payouts. A spectacular example hits the headlines now and then, but much greater losses mount up far from the glare of publicity. Many claims occur because, although they work together, shippers, receivers, cargo handlers, charterers and ship owners have different interests. The first video in this series showed how recognizing this can help reduce losses. This video and the guide which accompanies it look in greater detail at tankers identifying the most frequent causes of cargo claims and ways to avoid them.
The club's risk profile shows that tankers give rise to fewer major cargo claims than most other ships. But when something does go wrong, it's expensive. At over $500,000 US, nearly twice the average. Contamination causes 7 out of 10 petroleum products cargo claims. Shortage accounts for 6 out of 10 claims when the cargo is crude oil. Valve or pipe failure is one of the most common problems. But as much money is wasted by poor tank cleaning and 4 times more by bad handling. It's not ship failure that causes most losses, it's mistakes. And the way the industry's changing, there's more room for mistakes than ever before.
Once upon a time, it was common for the shipper and the receiver to be one and the same, often owning or time chartering ships as well. Officers and crew were usually hired directly by the owner on a long-term basis. Over time, they became familiar with the ship and expert in her dedicated trade. Things still went wrong, of course, but when they did, the problems could often be sorted out within the family. To the mariner of today, this must seem like a fairy tale. Change has become a way of life. Crews changing ships, and ships changing cargoes more and more often. Measuring cargo quantity, maintaining quality, and maximizing outturn are all more difficult on an unfamiliar ship.
Just received a voyage instruction. I'm not in position to be agree with you because it caused
Disputes aren't easily settled when the parties don't know each other.
It caused damage of cargo lines. As a result, damage of the cargo and losses.
Many problems occur on voyage charters, which have become very common. Many could be prevented. Charterers should issue cargo orders and voyage instructions in writing, and owners should make sure they are forwarded to ships intact. They must be clear, concise, and complete. If they're not, query them. Owners' standard operating procedures must be up to date and underline the importance of quantity measurement and quality control. Having followed charterers' and owners' instructions, ship's personnel must document the fact. Accurate, genuine records are the best way to defend the ship against any claim that may arise. Commercial pressures mean that a backhaul cargo instead of a ballast run may make the difference between profit and loss, jobs or no jobs. But however fierce the competition, nobody wins by chasing cargoes for which the ship isn't suitable. Consider carefully, can the ship lift the deadweight or volume the charterer requires? Will the draft be acceptable at load port, discharge port, and en route? The hull stresses and the trim. What is the discharge rotation? Are the ship's pumps suitable? Some cargoes need positive displacement pumps or vacuum assist units.
If the charterer wants tanks open for inspection, measurement or sampling, does the Port Authority permit you to release inert gas or arrive uninerted? Where can you re-inert? Will there be time? Are the tank coatings suitable? A chemical tanker's IMO certificate of fitness lists the cargoes it may safely carry in each tank. Check the manufacturer's resistance tables too. But that's not the whole story. Some previous cargoes can make a tank unacceptable. Tank history is such a serious concern in the edible oil trade that lists of prohibited previous cargoes are published.
Some chemicals have special handling and carriage needs, such as vapor recovery, nitrogen blankets, and agitation. Or they may attack conventional fittings, like rubber valve seats. Notify the owner as soon as any problem occurs which the ship can't repair promptly, so that he doesn't agree to, for example, 2-valve separation when unserviceable valves make this impossible. Short-term relationships have also led to problems with cargo interests. While most are genuine, it's a risk to assume goodwill. Beware Wall Street refiners, traders notorious for taking every advantage the charter party allows, especially when the market drops. The charter party sets out the rules of the game. The more you know about them, the better.
Remember, know your ship. Maintain it well. Don't take goodwill for granted. The chief officer.
I like to make the connection.
It's a safe bet that if the owner doesn't insist on him being in charge throughout cargo operations, the Port Authority will.
When we make the agreement, then we can, for every parcel, take a short stop.
It's an open secret that the new all-change industry has produced many junior officers and crew who, through no fault of their own, are poorly trained and inexperienced. Too often this leads to one man doing everything while he fights fatigue as well. It's a trend that needs reversing for everyone's good. The smaller crews get, the more each man must do. Chief officers should use the cargo plan to establish what and when. When the master has checked the plan to make certain it meets the charter's requirements, assigning a junior officer to review it gives him a chance to learn and is an additional precaution.
It will be probably...
Then the chief officer should discuss it with the deck officers and the pump man.
Will take care of it. We can run probably the fixed machines. So maybe he will use one of the watchmen. There's a double watch.
A copy should be posted on the crew bulletin board.
And cargo number 3, stowage.
Finally, each deck officer should discuss the plan with the seaman on his watch. That way, everyone learns. And everyone knows how he fits into the team, reducing stress and the risk of error all around.
Loading and discharging operation.
Remember, good planning benefits crew as well as cargo. Failure of valves and pipes is a chief cause of losses, so cargo handling systems must be checked carefully before loading. Poor cleaning results in almost as many major claims, at an average cost of $300,000. Commercial pressures are making trade switches almost routine, but no less risky. Unless the cargo is the same as the one before, the charterer should provide written cleaning instructions or refer to a recognized source. Dr. Verwey's tank cleaning guide is widely used, but it is only a guide. Coating resistance tables should be used as well.
Take the opportunity to inspect coatings. Check heating coils. Maintain pumps and pressure vacuum valves. Check the inert gas system and crude oil washing machines. Check sampling and measuring devices, instrumentation and alarms. Don't assume staff know how to use and calibrate equipment. Make sure. Remember, always do an oxygen test before entering a tank to carry out maintenance.
Don't give notice of readiness until the vessel is in every respect able to load, and comply with local rules. But liaise with the charterer first, and once notice has been given, protest any delay in berthing.
Remember, ask for cleaning instructions and carry them out. Check cargo handling systems. Don't give notice of readiness until ready to load.
I check.
Too often, time pressures reduce the key meeting to a paper chase.
Say I'm coming, and then an hour later I call again.
Checklists are helpful reminders. But it's easy to confuse form filling and real communication.
After we
After loading,
blanket.
Yeah, after loading also blanket.
Surveyors for check your ship tanks. Blanket on your farm.
Inspectors on board.
Yeah, if we
Everyone needs to know which cargo is going where, but the chief officer must make sure he gets all the information his team need to do their job, including temperatures and densities.
Cargo, that is sufficient.
He should do everything possible to create a rapport between ship and shore staff.
okay, I hope good cooperation shore and the ships.
The better the key meeting, the better the chance that the right quantity and quality of cargo will be transferred safely to the ship's custody.
I'll see you later.
See you later.
Thank you.
The club's risk profile identifies bad handling as one of the most frequent causes of major tanker cargo claims, costing on average more than $750,000. The chief officer must supervise the lineup of the cargo and gas venting system pipelines. To avoid one-man errors, an independent check should be made by another officer. The golden rule is any valve not required for loading must be closed. Start by closing them all. Segregation valves, which are to remain closed, should be labelled and sealed if possible. Lashing with rope is crude, but effective. If the valve can be operated remotely, have you made sure its controls are covered? If they're accessible, overboard and sea valves must be closed and sealed in the presence of the inspector. The seal number must be included on the inspection certificate and also logged. Remember, technology doesn't always work. Go on deck to examine the actuators of valves operated remotely. For multigrade loadings, label manifolds, critical valves, and each tank on the cargo panel in the control room. It's easy to overlook cleaning the manifold sampling point. Have you made sure the drip tray is in place?
On top of cargo losses, many major pollution claims are caused by valve mix-ups, the average incident costing $500,000. That's why lining up with care pays a double dividend.
Remember, talk ship and shore into one team. Ask another officer to check lineups. Technology can go wrong. The cargo inspector is on board. It's vital that he and the chief officer work well together.
Hello, sir.
But often things go wrong.
For inspection?
Yes, sir. Let's go to the control room. I'll log you down.
Okay.
What time shall I log down?
A business-like start is important. But be clear who does what.
Okay.
Inspectors only record.
50,000.
It's not their job to manage the operation. It's yours.
3 lines, sir. 1, 2, and 3.
An independent inspector is independent in name only.
Center. Can we do a line displacement in 4
He may get most of his work through the terminal.
Okay, thank you. And what tank you will finish?
I will start and finish with 4 center.
4 center. Can
Whoever pays him, it isn't the ship owner.
Yes, everything.
we, okay. Can you stop before?
Conflicts of interest can never be ruled out.
Will be the last time.
Thank you.
You're right here.
Remembering an inspector is as prone to error as the next man, it's essential to actively monitor his work. An error of 1 degree centigrade can distort the volume calculation by up to 0.1%, depending on cargo density. On a VLCC, that could mean 30,000 US dollars. Getting the list wrong by 1 degree could lead to overstating a VLCC's cargo by as much as 10,000 barrels, perhaps 200,000 US dollars. Measuring cargo density, a difference of 0.01 kilograms per litre can alter a VLCC's tonnage calculation by 3,000 metric tons, 420,000 US dollars.
It's half degree port side?
No, half. Let's say a quarter.
Yeah, fine.
An experienced officer may be more expert than the inspector. The less experienced will find that books available from the Institute of Petroleum and the American Petroleum Institute detail what the inspector should do. But he's also subject to commercial pressures, often trying to do the work of 2.
Oh yeah. Shit.
Try to be sensitive to this
Hello.
while recording any delays it causes. And don't forget that cutting corners is seldom in your interest.
En ik verruineer gelijk.
The guide which accompanies this video considers sampling in detail. Whenever samples are taken, the procedure should conform to the latest requirements of the relevant authorities, as well as the ones he takes for his clients and his own firm. Ask him to draw another set for the ship. If he refuses, log the fact and take your own. Whenever you ask him to note a comment, he should do so.
Okay, I'll make a note.
If he doesn't, log it instead, and make sure the owner is made aware. If you don't agree with the way the inspector interprets what he sees, don't be defensive or hostile. Ask, how do we sort this out?
Excuse me, Chief.
Yeah?
Chief, the surveyor is very unhappy with the tank coating of 8 starboard. He says the coating is quite badly damaged.
We are just loading veg oil, so it's not a problem.
Avoid escalating the problem.
Part of the
Try to reach a commercial solution, always faster and cheaper than a legal dispute.
So for veg oil, as long as the tank is clean and no blisters, it's okay.
As soon as it becomes apparent that you can't come to an agreement, you must protest. And don't forget, the club is there to support you, usually with a correspondent on the spot.
When loading is about to start, everyone needs to be on the alert, taking nothing for granted. Have you considered the shoreline? Could it be slack? If you suspect it might be, why not ask for the quantity said to be in the line to be pumped into one of the ship's tanks. Then measure it. When loading begins, it's a mistake to assume cargo is going only where you want it. Check over the side, idle tanks, and the pump room if you're loading cargo through it. Quantity measurement is also considered in detail in the accompanying guide. But the normal shipboard measurements before and after loading and discharge are not the only ones that matter. Defending claims, the measurements taken during these operations are often more important. Ullaging regularly enables you to compare the loading rate with the hourly figures from the terminal. This can provide an early indication of cargo misrouting, either ashore or on board. It also enables the ship to protest slow loading by the terminal. Rather than depend on the dial, confirm control room readings with the portable ullaging unit at least once every watch. Keep a comprehensive operations log. Measure and record cargo temperature and ullages when loading starts and every hour. Note stop and start times, tanks and line systems used with times of changes, ballast details, and reasons for any stoppages. If pipelines are stripped or flushed between grades, log that too. Better still, make use of the inspector. Ask him to witness that it's been done.
Ja, maar waarom komt u het me toch nu pas vertellen? Ik ben nog ontzettend druk bezig met aftoppen van al mijn tanks.
The pressure of early departure procedures increases the likelihood of errors, but it's still the ship's responsibility to make sure they're avoided.
Wij hebben u niet besteld hoor.
Okay, for 2 port, 92.
09.
Many last-minute problems could be avoided if chief officers and inspectors always agreed a procedure in advance.
That's correct.
So we agree on these figures? Yes.
Okay, chief.
Okay, see you next time.
The bill of lading figure must be compared with the ship's as soon as it's received, and the charterer notified if they differ.
Remember, inspectors may not be independent. Inspectors are certainly not infallible. Inspectors are never in charge. To protect your own interests, monitor inspectors' work, make good any omissions, keep accurate, detailed records. However great the pressure to vacate the berth, before sailing, make sure all tank lids are shut tight, all valves are closed, and all samples and cargo documents are secured. Log this, and every step you take to care for the cargo. Make sure all the charterer's instructions are carried out, such as venting, heating, and agitating. Check and record ullages daily, if weather permits. Investigate any variation. It may indicate leakage to or from another tank, or a change in the condition of the cargo. Apart from causing cargo claims, leakage can be hazardous. possible, transfer bunkers for trim purposes. When tanks are inerted, check and record inert gas pressures and oxygen content daily for safety and to limit vapor losses. The temperature of heated cargoes should be recorded daily too, measured at the top, middle and bottom of every tank. Charterers sometimes ask for heating to be stopped to save money. If this could extend discharge time or damage the cargo, ask for confirmation of required discharge temperatures and advise the owner. Be aware of the likely air and water temperature at the discharge port and take precautions in good time.
Inhibited cargoes require extra vigilance. Warn the owner and charterer immediately if the temperature rises unexpectedly. It could be a sign that the cargo has started to polymerize. Out of control, this is an extreme hazard. Weather should be logged frequently and accurately. Some charter parties release the ship from her performance guarantee in winds above force 4. Be certain to log seas on deck when appropriate.
There's been a change in the rotation here. Because we can have barges coming
Before arrival, make sure the team are as well prepared to discharge as they were to
Those
load.
tanks are ready now. One center starboard, 2 in port, so...
Remember, good record keeping protects you from unjustified claims. Good cargo care protects you from accidents too. Discharging concerns differ according to the type and number of cargoes carried. If it's a single grade of crude, quantity is uppermost in everyone's mind. Easy to understand when shortage accounts for 6 out of 10 crude oil claims. The guide accompanying this video focuses on maximizing cargo outturn and making sure the inspector estimates the remaining on-board amount fairly.
Since contamination causes 7 out of 10 cargo claims on product tankers, their discharge plans will put maintenance of quality ahead of outturn or time in port. The guide concentrates on ways to avoid contamination and underlines the importance of methodical sampling.
Whatever the cargo, allow time to line up carefully and have it checked by another officer. Are pump room valves properly set and bypass valves closed? Before discharging, ask the inspector to witness that the overboard valves are sealed and record the seal numbers in the log. Immediately cargo starts to be discharged, check over the side for leakage. Verifying that ullages are constant in idle tanks confirms that cargo is not being misrouted or leaking within the ship. To help prevent cargo being misdirected in the terminal, best practice is to ullage active tanks regularly and compare results with the hourly shore discharge rates.
2 center, 2.85.
Monitoring air and sea temperatures and sea state can provide valuable evidence in case of a subsequent dispute about the pumpability of the cargo. If feasible, the inspector should take samples of each grade at the start of discharging, once during each watch, and during stripping. If he doesn't, those who follow best practice will do it themselves. A set of samples showing that the cargo hasn't changed since it was loaded is probably the best defense against a claim.
Good written records are essential too. All samples must be logged. Which pumps and lines are in use and what for. Pressures at the pump and the manifold. Which valves are opened and closed and when. Don't throw away rough notebooks and logs. As proof of your due diligence, courts take more notice of them than fair copies. Getting the inspector to sign them adds even more credibility. But if something does go wrong, something which might cause contamination, don't be tempted to hide it. The sooner problems are identified, the less the owner's potential exposure.
Tanker cargo claims cost twice the average for other types of ship. This is a price the industry can ill afford to pay.
Everyone can help prevent these losses. Owners can ensure that ships are suitable for their cargoes and that standard operating procedures are comprehensive and up to date. Charterers can make cargo orders and voyage instructions clear, concise and complete. Officers can make sure that they and the crew are as well prepared as the ship itself.
Remember that inspectors aren't independent, certainly not infallible, and never in charge. It's still your job to make sure that quality and quantity are carefully monitored. And it's in your interest to see that accurate records are kept.
This video is only an introduction to tanker loss prevention. In the contest against claims, as in today's competitive marketplace, only the best informed will win.
So, do your homework.
Share your experience around.
Encourage everyone to talk about their mistakes so all can learn from them.
Build a winning team.